All right, 8.2, solve quadratics by factoring. Okay, so what it says here, it says when quadratic equations are written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we are unable to use the method of taking square roots like we did in the last lesson. We can use the second method of solving quadratic equations called factoring. So what's unique about all these problems down here is that they have this bx term. And because of this bx term, we can't just do the normal taking square roots. And I'm not going to kind of show you why, because like if you, I guess I can, like if you were to manipulate this equation, you have x squared plus 11x, say you don't write this, you write minus 30 on both sides. Like there's really not so much you can do here because you can't combine these terms. So we have to use this very like special method called factoring when we have problems written like this. We have to use a special method. We're going to use factoring, and we factored in the last unit. So hopefully you became decent at it back then, so you'll get more practice with it here because it was kind of difficult. So yeah, we're going to do factoring. So here we go. Number one, solve the quadratic equations by factoring. So on A, I'm going to factor x squared plus 11x plus 30. And just keep in mind with all these problems, you need to have it set equal to 0. So this is set equal to 0, so we're good. So we're going to factor it. So x squared plus 11x plus 30. I'm not going to like get too in-depth with the factoring. If you need to remember how to factor, go back to the other unit. So this factors into multiplies to 30, adds to 11. That would be 6 and 5. So once you factor it, which I just factored it, we can use this thing we call the zero product property. Okay, you don't need to memorize that, but it's called the zero product property, which means anything times 0 equals 0. So basically what that says is that we need either this parenthesis to equal 0 or this parenthesis to equal 0 for this entire equation to equal 0. So try to understand that because 0 times anything equals 0. So we need either this parenthesis, the green parenthesis, the one I underlined green, to equal 0, or the blue parenthesis to equal 0. We need one of those to equal 0. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to break both of these up. I need either, so I'm going to kind of create two equations now. I need either x plus 6 to equal 0, or I need x plus 5 to equal 0. And I solved both of those. So this one, I would subtract 6 from both sides. X equals negative 6. Boom. Subtract 5 from both sides. X equals negative 5. So those are the two solutions, negative 6 and negative 5. Those are the solutions. And of course, you could plug those numbers back into the original equation, see if it works. Okay, let me show you. I'm going to do a lot of these. Okay, I'm going to do about half of them on this section here. Okay, so let me do B. So it's already set equal to 0. I'm good there. I'm going to factor it. So I need x there and an x there. So it's got to multiply to positive 40, add to positive 14. So it should be 10 and 4. And again, I need, in order for this equate by the zero product property, I need either the x plus 10 to equal 0, or I need the x plus 4 to equal 0 to equal, for the equation to equal 0. Because 0 times anything equals this 0. So that's the property. That's the idea. Okay, so I want you to understand the idea, not just do it. So straight from looking at this problem right now, I already know what the answers are. It's negative 10 and it's negative 4, right? Because negative 10 plus 10 is 0. Like we're already doing here. Negative 10 plus 10 is 0. So that would be an answer. And even negative 4 would be an answer because negative 4 plus 4 equals 0. So those, I already kind of know those are the answers. Let me erase all that so I can make it look cleaner. So x, what was it? It was, hold on. X plus 10, x plus 4. Okay. So to show work would be, okay, separate these. We have x plus 10 equals 0, or we need x plus 4 to equal 0. Subtract 10 from both sides. X would be negative 10. Subtract 4 from both sides. X would be negative 4. I'm going to give a little less explanation on the next few just because sometimes I feel like when I give too much of an explanation, it might cloud your mind. So here we go. So on C, there's a little bit of a thing we have to do first. It's not set equal to 0. In order to use this zero product property, we need the equations to say equals 0 like they did up here. Or otherwise, we can't use that zero product property. It has to be equal to 0. So what I would do to start this equation, I would take away that minus 20. So now I have x squared minus x minus 20 equals 0. So now it's set up for the factoring. Okay, it's got to be set equal to 0. So now we're going to factor. Multiplies to negative 20, adds to negative 1. That could be a negative 5 and positive 4. Have it factored. Then I'm going to break these both up. Set them both equal to 0. Add 5. X equals 5. That's one answer. Subtract 4. X equals negative 4. That's the second answer. On letter D, it's got to be set equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 7x. Get rid of that. Subtract it from its like term on the other side. So now I have x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. Now I can factor it. Multiplies to negative 18, adds to positive 3. That would be positive 6 and negative 3. Set each equal to 0. Solve them both. I'm not going to show the full work so much anymore. Hopefully you understand it. We'd subtract 6 from both sides. On this one, I'd get negative 6. Add 3 to both sides, I'd get positive 3. E, again, got to set this one equal to 0. So I'm going to take away this 5x. And I'm also going to add 1. I'm going to do that at the same time. So I need to take away 5x from this side and add 1. Those are gone now. So on this side, I'll have x squared. There was nothing to subtract the 5x from, so I'm just going to write minus 5x. The 5 plus the 1 is 6. So now it's set equal to 0. Factor it. Multiplies to positive 6, adds to negative 5. That could be negative 3 and negative 2. Set each equal to 0. I would add 3 to both sides on this one, so I would get positive 3. I would add 2 to both sides on this one. I would get positive 2. And if you need, you can always slow the video down if I'm going too fast. Sorry about that. This one's already set equal to 0, so we don't have to do anything. We can just factor it straight up. Multiplies to positive 9, adds to negative 10. I think 3 and 3 isn't going to work for that. Negative 9 and negative 1 would, though. Set each equal to 0. Add 9 to both sides, I get 9. Add 1 to both sides, I get 1. And those are solutions. Let me show you more. Here we have a leading coefficient greater than 1, so they're going to get harder, right? Just because the factoring is harder to do. Factor this. So it's got to multiply to 7, those two numbers. I needed the 2x and the x there to get the 2x squared, but these numbers in here that go in the parentheses are going to have to multiply to positive 7, and then they're going to have to, through distributing, you're going to have to combine to positive 15. So I think I need to put, if I put a 7 here, the 2x times the 7 would be 14x, and then a 1 here. The 1 times the x would give me 1x, which would make the 15x. And 1 times 7, 7. Okay, so it's factored correctly. And of course, distribute it out to the side if you're not sure if you factored it right. Set each equal to 0. This right one's a little easier. You subtract 7 on both sides. Let me just show the full work. So you get -7. On the left one, though, you got 2 steps to do it. You got to subtract the 1. So you have 2x equals -1. Then you have to divide by 2. So x is going to equal -1/2. H, it's set equal to 0, so we're good. We just got to factor it. 3x, x, multiplies to 10, combines to 17. Okay, I got to get all the way to 17. So to get to 10, I'm thinking 5 times 2. I just got to figure out where's the 5 go, where's the 2 go. So I think I should put the 5 over here, because when I distribute, 3 times 5 will give me 15x. And if I put the 2 here, I'll get a 2x. So that'll make 17x. Set each equal to 0. So on this one, you subtract 5 from both sides. That's -5. That one's easier. This one, you'd have to subtract 2 from both sides. And then you'd have to divide by 3. So I'll get -2/3. And I didn't show the full work. Hopefully that you see that. Okay, hopefully you see what I'm doing there. Okay, you have to set equal to 0. So I would subtract the x squared from, I'll show it. I would go minus x squared, put it underneath there. And you'd go minus 3x. Got to get rid of those, and I'd put it underneath there. So 3x squared minus 1x squared is 2x squared. -10x minus 3x, -13x. Still have my plus 20 equals 0. Set equals 0, good. Now I'm going to factor it. 2x and x. Multiply to positive 20 combined to -13. So that I know these are both going to have to be negatives. Multiplies to 20. We got 10 and 2, 4 and 5. Let me think here. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I'm going to put a 4 here because the 2x times the 4 through distributing would get me -8x. And then the 5 here, 5 times x, -5x, the -8x and the -5x will give me the -13x. Okay. Now I'm going to set each equal to 0. 2x minus 5 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. I'm going to do the right one first. It's a bit easier. Add 4 to both sides. I get 4. The second one, I would add 5 to both sides and then divide by 2. So I'd get 5 over 2. J, again, I got to set it equal to 0. So I would subtract the 2x from both sides, and I'd add the 5. So I'm going to have 6x squared. If I subtract the 2x, now I'm going to have 19x. And if I add the 5 over 15, and we have to factor. Ooh, this one looks pretty tough to factor because I got a 6x squared, which means I could do a 6x and a 1x, or heck, it could be a 3x and a 2x. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to try the 3x and the 2x. I have a feeling that's probably going to work. Multiply to 15. 3 and 5 or 5 and 3. Those are kind of my choices. 15 and 1, but I don't think it's going to be that. I think I have to put the 3 here because that would give me 9x. And if I put the 5 here, that would give me 9x. That would give me 10x. Yeah, that would make 19x. Okay. So I have it factored. Set each equal to 0. Subtract 5 from both sides on this. Divide by 3. That's -5/3. Subtract 3 on both sides on this one. Divide by 2. negative 3/2. So I'm doing a lot here, right? Like you're going to have a whole page to do as well. I just want to show you as many as I possibly can. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more. And these ones are a little unique. So we could, like on K, we could, don't write this yet, but we could do this, do the 2x, and that's fine. Like go for it. But there's actually like, I'm looking at this problem and there's actually like something that we can do to make this easier on ourselves. And you notice how each of these are even and they're divisible by 2. If we want to make this easier on ourselves, this is what we can do. We can factor a 2 out to make this a bit easier. So if I factor 2 out, I would have x squared plus 7x plus 12. And we could, we don't really even need to write that 2 anymore. We could have divided the 2 from both sides just to make that easier. But I'm going to leave the 2 there. So now I can factor what's in the parentheses. And what's in the parentheses is easy to factor because it's a leading coefficient of 1. So multiplies to 12, adds to 7 would be 4 and 3. So then I would break up the x plus 4 equals 0 and the x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides, negative 4. Subtract 3 from both sides, negative 3. So on L, you could, you got a set equals 0, subtract x squared from both sides. So I have 3x squared plus 30x plus 75 equals 0. And then just like the last one, like 3x, 30x, you could just, don't write this, but again, you could do this and try to factor it. But I'm noticing they're all divisible by 3. So it's probably going to be easier because 75 is such a huge number. Like they're all divisible by 3, so I can factor out a 3. And that's going to make it a bit easier. And I'm glad this is a problem because when I factored this, it's going to be x plus 5, x plus 5. And sure, I break it up. I do x plus 5 equals 0. And it's redundant, but if you do another x plus 5 equals 0, you subtract 5 from both sides, I get negative 5. These are both negative 5, so I don't even need to like do this one, right? There's only one answer to this one, which is kind of fascinating. It's just negative 5. That's the only answer to this one. It's just negative 5. So it doesn't really make sense to write it twice. So x equals negative 5. So I'll let you do the rest. Good luck with all of those.